In a small town in America, nestled between rolling hills and winding streets, there was a diner known as Maple Grove. For over 30 years, the diner had been a beloved spot for locals, a place where laughter echoed and the smell of freshly brewed coffee filled the air. At the heart of this establishment was Clara Thompson, a dedicated waitress who had served countless customers with a warm smile and a kind heart. But recent changes had cast a shadow over Maple Grove. A new manager, Derek Hayes, had taken the reins, bringing strict rules and an unyielding attitude. To him, efficiency was paramount, and compassion was a luxury that had no place in his diner. The once warm and welcoming atmosphere had begun to feel cold and uninviting, leaving many customers and staff uneasy. One chilly November evening, just before closing time, the door swung open with a creak, sending a gust of cold wind into the diner. Clara glanced up from her task of wiping down a table, her heart sinking as she noticed a homeless man step inside. His clothes were tattered, and his face was obscured by a thick, unkempt beard. He looked hesitant, rubbing his trembling hands together in an attempt to find warmth. The customers at nearby booths exchanged uncomfortable glances, quickly returning to their meals. Clara's heart ached at the sight. She had seen many homeless individuals before, but there was something about this man that tugged at her heartstrings. His eyes held a depth of despair that resonated with her. Without a second thought, Clara approached him, offering a warm smile. "Sir, are you all right?" she asked gently. The man hesitated, then nodded slowly. "I just need a little something to eat. I don't have any money, but I can help wash dishes if you need." His voice was deep but hoarse, as if he hadn't spoken in a long time. Clara knew the diner's policy: no free meals, no exceptions. But in that moment, she felt compelled to act. "Please, sit down," she urged, guiding him to a booth in the corner. "I'll get you something warm." She hurried to the kitchen, scooping a bowl of steaming chicken soup and grabbing a slice of buttered bread. With a sense of satisfaction, she placed the meal in front of him. As he picked up the spoon, his hands trembled slightly, and for a moment, he just stared at the food before beginning to eat. Just then, Derek appeared, arms crossed and a disgusted expression on his face. "What do you think you're doing?" he snapped, his voice sharp as a knife. Clara turned, startled. "I'm just helping him, Derek. He's hungry." "Helping him?" Derek sneered. "You're feeding a freeloader. Are you out of your mind?" Clara's stomach twisted. "He's just hungry, Derek. It's one meal." "That's not how this works," he shouted, his face reddening. "This is a business, not a charity." Clara clenched her fists. "So what? We just let people starve?" "Yes." Derek shot back. "If they can't pay, they don't eat. That's the rule." Silence fell over the diner as all eyes turned to the confrontation. Clara refused to back down. "It's okay, sir. Please, finish your food," she said to the homeless man, who had stopped eating, his expression unreadable. Derek's face turned scarlet. "That's it," he yelled, yanking the apron from Clara's waist. "You're done. You're fired." Gasps rippled through the diner. Clara's heart sank. 30 years of hard work and dedication were being tossed aside in an instant. "You can't be serious," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Oh, I'm dead serious." Derek shot back. "I should have fired you years ago. You're too soft, too old-fashioned. Get out." With tears stinging her eyes, Clara took a deep breath and walked out, the weight of the moment crushing her spirit. The rain began to fall as she made her way back to her small apartment, her heart heavy with a mix of sorrow and anger. How could Derek have so much power over people's lives? That night, as she sat in silence, Clara felt an emptiness she had never known before. For the first time in 3 decades, she had no place to be, no customers to serve, and no sense of purpose. A knock at the door startled her from her thoughts. She opened it to find a manila envelope lying on the mat. It had no name or return address, just her name scrawled in bold black ink. Inside was a letter that made her heart race. "Clara, I owe you an explanation. Meet me at Maple Grove Diner at noon. Mr. Lancaster." Mr. Lancaster, the owner, had been absent for years, leaving the diner in Derek's hands. But now, he wanted to talk. Clara felt a strange sense of anticipation as she grabbed her coat and headed out. Upon arriving, she sensed something was off. The usual lively chatter was replaced by an eerie silence, and the staff seemed on edge, whispering nervously. Clara's stomach knotted. Just then, Derek stormed out of the office, looking pale and shaken. He ignored her, slamming the door behind him. "Clara, come in," Mr. Lancaster called from inside the office. Taking a deep breath, she entered the room. The once polished and confident owner now appeared worn and troubled. "You didn't serve a homeless man last night, did you?" he asked, leaning forward. Clara's breath caught in her throat. "What do you mean?" "That man, he was me." The silence that followed was deafening. Clara felt as if the ground had shifted beneath her. Mr. Lancaster had disguised himself to see how his employees treated those in need. "I saw your kindness, Clara." In contrast, Derek showed a complete lack of humanity. Now everything clicked into place. This had been a test, and Derek had failed miserably. Mr. Lancaster sighed heavily. "I made a mistake leaving Derek in charge. I trusted him to uphold the values this diner was built on, and I was wrong." "What now?" Clara asked, her mind racing. Mr. Lancaster smiled slowly. "Now, I make things right." 15 minutes later, all the employees gathered in the diner, a palpable tension filling the air. Mr. Lancaster stepped forward, his voice booming. "This diner was never meant to be a place of cruelty. Derek Carter is no longer the manager of this establishment." Gasps rippled through the crowd, but he continued, turning towards Clara. "I believe this diner needs a manager who truly understands what it means to serve with heart. Clara, if you'll accept it, I want you to be the new manager." Clara's heart soared. "I accept." She had gone from being fired to being offered the leadership role in a matter of minutes. The staff looked at her with a mix of surprise and admiration, and Clara understood the weight of the responsibility now placed upon her shoulders. But not everyone was pleased. Just as Clara began to settle into her new role, Derek stormed back into the diner, red-faced and furious. "You think you can just toss me aside?" he bellowed. "Derek, you're done here," Mr. Lancaster said, his tone unyielding. Derek's eyes burned with hatred as he glared at Clara. "You think you can do my job? You're a waitress, not a leader." "I don't just think I can," Clara replied calmly. "I know I can." As Derek was escorted out by the police for his actions, Clara felt a wave of relief wash over her. The diner erupted in applause, and Clara realized that the battle for Maple Grove was just beginning. In the following weeks, Clara poured her heart and soul into the diner. She introduced new policies focused on kindness and support, ensuring that employees felt valued and respected. The atmosphere began to shift back to what it had once been, a place where community thrived. But Derek wasn't finished. He launched a smear campaign, flooding review sites with fake complaints about the diner. Clara quickly mobilized her staff, organizing a campaign to invite food bloggers and local influencers to the diner, showcasing the genuine kindness they provided. The response was overwhelming. The fake reviews were quickly drowned out by positive feedback, and the diner was packed with customers eager to support Clara and her team. But just as things seemed to be turning around, a health inspector arrived, claiming he had received complaints about unsanitary conditions. Clara's heart sank. She realized Derek was behind this too, hoping to sabotage her efforts. As the inspector scrutinized the diner, Clara remained composed. She requested to see the security footage, knowing it would reveal the truth. When the footage showed Derek tampering with the food, the inspector decided not to file a violation. With Derek's schemes out in the open, Clara felt a renewed sense of purpose. She had transformed Maple Grove into a community hub once more, all while standing up for what was right. Weeks later, as she looked around at her bustling diner filled with laughter and warmth, Clara knew this was just the beginning. She wasn't just serving meals, she was building something meaningful, and nothing, not even Derek, could take that away from her.